Okay, so typically when you start with the GDPR Vault, one of the first things is you set up the so-called basic structure. So we have a home view called basic structure. Here we have some items that typically early on you set up. You set up, for example, what kind of companies you have, what affiliates there are in your organization. Many of these objects are being used as placeholders for other content. You set up your departments. Again, they are mainly just placeholders for other content in the vault. Here we have the document types. So for example, there is a document type called non-disclosure agreement, and please note that every document type contains the abbreviation, in this case NDA, and this is something that we actually insert into the document title in many places. So these are the document types. They are not document classes. Okay. PDF overlays. This is how the M-Files server will process these documents, and the expectation is that you don't necessarily need to do too much here. For a customer implementation, you may want to put their logos and stuff here, unless their logos are already on the empty templates. Okay. People. So all by class. Employee. We use the user person sync. So for example, we have an employee called GDPR manager. There's actually a user, and the system generates a matching person object. And the nice thing is that we actually show their group memberships as the employee metadata. So you can see who holds the data protection officer role in the system and so forth. All the other classes of people are like normal. For example, a supplier contact person. So we have this Janne Järvenoja chap here, whose job title is Uber manager, and he's associated with this supplier company based in Finland. So that's all part of the basic structure. Personal data types. This is something you also set up early on. So for example, customer contact info. That's basically one type of data governed by certain legislation that you should keep so and so long. There's a legal basis why you keep customer contact info. We have claimed that this is not sensitive. If we thought this was sensitive, then there would be another mandatory property basically saying what is the legal basis of keeping the sensitive data. Okay, and again, these are the personal data types are being used as metadata in many places. Process list. So again, these are just key placeholders we use in many places. So for example, we have a main process called personal data processing. If I drill down, I can see that there are 5 sub-processes: processing customer data, processing employee data, and so forth. And these are used as placeholders. It's one of the first things you do is to specify the processes you have. And by process, we simply mean something that a company does over and over again according to certain procedures. And for example, processing employee data, I can drill down and see that there are 2 SOPs currently, or procedures currently, that govern this process in this company. But we'll look at the SOP stuff later. Okay, that was the list of processes, and finally just site list. These can be your company sites, or they can be a supplier sites. That's basically where you host your computer systems. This could be anything, basically anything on a map. Anything with a street address is a site. That's it can be a building, or it can be like a cloud hosting site, or whatever it has to be. Okay, that was the setting up the basic structure. Then let's take a look at the default documents that ship with the product. We have a dedicated view called default MFA GDPR document tools in the home view that takes you to everything. The big, of course, is the IT governance toolkit, that has everything. There's a zip file that is like a raw package of everything, but we have broken them down to multi-file documents here. The idea is that before we actually ship this vault, we'll break these files into M-files, separate documents, each with its own metadata, so it's easy to get started. And we have basically IT Governance UK had already provided us this, like our classification of their documents. We just have to put it in the vault. One probably good document is the GDPR project steps overview. It's just a Word template. And GDPR dude here, naturally, we embrace this image on all the material we have. And we are gonna work on this document still before October 16th. But these are basically, every heading here is a step you need to take, or at least consider taking during your GDPR project. Like create inventory of all business processes that involve personally identifiable data. That would be setting up those main process and sub-process objects in the vault. Okay. Let's take a look at the common views that we have. The logic is rather simple. We have a view called Procedure Work Area. This is where you work on your SOPs or procedures. And this is much like what you would see in the QMS. If you know QMS, this is highly similar. We have a view for all the ongoing document work, anything that is currently approved. We break the SOPs down by process, processing customer data. So here would be those SOPs that relate to that process. Okay. Then we have a collection of views. Let me zoom in. Processes, registries, sites, and supplier management. And basically all these 5 views follow similar logic that I hope is idiot simple. If we go to, for example, registries, we have first a view that has an inventory, like a flat list of the actual registry objects. This is one personal data registry record in the system. And then the next view is content, where we break things down by registry. So instead of seeing a list of registries, you see a list of virtual folders for each registry. It's simple as that. So we go to customer invoicing database, and we have all the stuff associated with that. We go to opportunity contact information, and we have some even more stuff associated with this personal data registry. There's some documents, there's an audit, there's the data system where the data is stored, there's a personal data request, and so forth. And all these views follow the same logic. Data system, first the inventory, all the data systems. In this humble demo, I have exactly one. It's called M-File CRM, because that sure holds personal data, right? And then we have the by hosting site. We show the CRM here because it's hosted on this site in Finland. So there's the system, and here you have all the content by supplier example supplier 1, that's the supplier company who provides us the mFile CRM and the same content again. Okay, so that's basically how all these views work. Next down the line we have a view for audits and different kinds of views. We have audits by year, 2017. There is a supplier audit that's already closed, and again, the same logic. Here is the umbrella object, which is the audit itself. And here is the documents and data. There was a major finding that we were out of tea. Okay. We have some views for tracking issues and incidents, and these should be rather self-evident. Open by class, all the data system breaches that are currently open are here. Admin password compromised for this data system and so forth. Okay. And finally, we have requests, where we look at either personal data requests, where people request something from the company. Please tell me what information you have about me. Please forget I ever existed. Or data system accesses, for example, all the login access requests, where people have requested access to a system. And that completes the list of open views. And as you know mFiles so well, you understand that this is just a starting point, but it's good to have something. Okay, so the three main inventories, let's look at them again, are the registries, like the main objects you need to be concerned about, the registries, the data systems, and suppliers. What is characteristics of all three is that they all go through a work. Oops. When the zoom tool gets funny when you are using Skype. So they all go through a qualification workflow. Basically, every supplier, every data system, and every personal registry wants to be traffic light green, be qualified, and the details of the qualification are somewhat case specific, but that's the big idea. And let's clarify what we mean by what's the difference between personal data registry and a data system, because those are GDPR terminology and they might be a bit confusing. So let's look at the customer invoicing database. Let me drill down. I can see, and it's hosted in the CRM. So this is one logical collection of personal data that we collect for a certain purpose. It's under certain legislation and processed in a certain way. The data, however, is physically stored in this data system. And if I continue drilling down, I can see that the CRM holds both opportunity contact information as well as customer invoicing data. So in a database fashion, this is a classical many-to-many. One physical computer system can hold many types of personal data collections, or one can have customer opportunity data. Like in our case, we would have it both in Pardot and CRM, for example. So it's in one data in many places or many types of data in one place. And this might be slightly complex for the customer at first, but this is how GDPR works, so we just have to explain it. Right. Next thing I want to emphasize is that we use compliance kit capabilities a lot. So in many cases when you're doing demos, when I select an object like a registry, a bunch of action buttons emerge to the task area on the left. Again, if you're doing this on MFAS 2018, your task area is collapsed by default, which kind of sucks. So just remember to keep it open at all times. So I select a registry, and I can start a new SOP. I can start conducting a new audit. I can set a periodic review. I can record that there's something wrong. If I select a data system, I can create a new SOP that is specific to that data system. I can record a new security violation or breach, which is something GDPR mandates people to do. You can record just any system risk. You can set the periodic review. Hey, let's check this system once a year. You can record any kind of issue, or you can request access to this system. And the same buttons are also available through right-click menu. So if you just right-click on an object, these handy action buttons are there as well. Okay. Okay, let's do some basic document stuff. So let's look at the content that we have for the customer invoicing database. We have 12 documents and a connection to an actual data system. To save some new documents is basic M-file stuff. So I'll just grab some files, drag and drop them here, or whatever means you want to do. And in this case, I classify them as registry attachments, and boom. Basic M-files stuff. This document, however, I'll also drag and drop it here, but I'll classify it as registry document. And now I have to specify your document type, so let's call this a memo. And now this is a document that I actually have to approve. Let's sort by date modified. So you would edit this document as long as needed and simply route for manager approval. It will figure out through metadata who the manager is, so you don't pick the manager as such. And I happen to be the manager in this demo, so I'll just approve it, apply an electronic signature, and now it's the approved version 1, date approved 28th of September, and the PDF processing is ongoing. Simple as this. Let's wait for the PDF processing to finish. Is this taking so? Okay. So now the document is a PDF. We have applied a signature page, and we have concatenated the full metadata page at the end of the document, which is handy if the documents leave the GDPR vault. If people send them out of the company, the metadata travels with the document. If I need to update the document, I'll simply move it to state route for updates. Oops. Did I make some kind of demo screw up? Let's try again. Okay. So notice now it's once again a Word file, and it's in updates ongoing state. So you would edit the document, and there you go, awaits manager reapproval, and approve again. And now we have ourselves the approved version 2 and the PDF processing ongoing once again. The difference between your typical SOP management is that we don't make a separate PDF rendition or separate release copy. It's the document itself that becomes the final version. Okay, and here we have our version 2. So that's very basic M-files stuff. for document handling, and we have tried to make it as simple as possible. Now let's add the level of advancement a little bit. Probably the single most important type of documents are procedures or SOPs, policies, those big quality documents. So I'll select. You could of course go like just a new document or double click on a template, but using the object creator is very handy. So I'll choose my procedure template. Okay. No. Training demo. It involves a processing customer data and create. Where did it go? Okay, my PC is acting funny. It's this Skype makes things a bit awkward. So we have your normal Word template. We'll put in some content and just save. And let's go to switch views. Let's go to the procedure work area, which is where you would work with documents before they are released. You'll notice the PR-CUST here. That's the abbreviation of the processing customer data. That's the big idea. The short version that we actually enter into the document title automatically. And the new thing here, which also may be very relevant for GDPR, is that you can select any number of approvers. So in this case, I'll choose GDPR manager and another person called GDPR administrator to be my two approvers. Once we have done the authoring, we'll say content ready. And now it awaits approval signatures. So it's assigned to both approvers, so I'll just go ahead and approve. I'll provide my electronic signature. Now it stays in the state await approval signatures, but now it's only assigned to the remaining signer, which was the other guy, the GDPR administrator. So this is the so-called parallel by all approving. So now I need to actually log in as GDPR administrator. Too many Vault connections. This one, I guess. And so here I have my training demo. It's beyond the scope of this session, but we have set up quite elaborate like reassigning capabilities. So if in mid-approval you figure out we need that person's approval as well, or one of the approvals is on sick leave, you can actually manage that in a highly controlled fashion. And we guarantee that if you delegate approvals, that's the only change you can do. So if someone already approved, there's no risk that somebody actually modifies the document after that. But now, in order to saving time, I'll just go ahead and approve. And it's gone from my GDPR administrators to-do list. Okay, now I'm back as the original demo user GDPR manager. You notice the training demo document vanished from this view because it's no longer ongoing document work. Let's go back where we look things from the registry point of view. So this was the customer invoicing database, and here is our procedure. And notice it's now approved and released state, but it's still a Word document. Because now we have actually created a separate release copy, which let's open it up. So this is a training demo. We have some stamping in the left margin. We have the signature page for with the 2 electronic signatures, and that's our major version 1 for this procedure. And already you can see that it gets kind of busy. There are quite a few documents. So assume people use this system for years. There could be thousands of documents per single registry. And so how do we ensure that these most important documents, the current procedures, don't get lost in the mass? Even with our excellent search capabilities and everything, that's a bit of a challenge. So how we try to solve this is first this. If you look at the metadata card of the file, it has this hyperlink to current. So I'll just click on that and it will open the current version directly. The idea is that you can copy this hyperlink into any location. You can put it in an email, you can put it in your intranet, you can put it anywhere. Also, if we look at the metadata card of the, look at the metadata card, well actually let's open it full screen viewing, it's easier. You can see that the document, the procedure will, through metadata, automatically point to its current procedures. So you have these shortcut links directly from the metadata card to the most essential documents. Okay. Also, if I would like drill down, let's sort this by name. I can see that there are 20 documents about this personal registry, but only 3 current procedures. So this is one other way we make the 3 most essential documents to be at your face, sort of. Naturally, these links will always point to the current versions. So let's go and revise the training demo to major version 2. So I'll go to my procedure work area once again. By registry, customer invoicing database. I'll route for update. There is no change request or anything complex here. This is very simple indeed. In order to save time for this route, I'll throw in the other approver. I'll approve this myself. So we would update the document a bit. Some updates here. And send it for approval. And this time there is only one approver, so a single electronic signature will release the document. Okay. And now we are in approved and released state. And now in the background, PDF processing is going on. Let's wait for that to finish. PDF processing is great in the sense that it doesn't freeze your user interface. But in demos, it kind of sucks because you have to wait for it to do its magic. Okay, so we have the version 1 is now retired. It also has special permissions. You have to be a manager to even know it's there. The version 2 is the new updated version, and now it only has my single electronic signature. And now I could simply route the editable file and start working my way towards major version 3 again. Now the editable file is the major version 3 draft. But the version 2 of this document is the current version, the latest approved version. So if I again now go to look at from the registry point of view, I'll go to my registry view. and drill down, I can see that there are current procedures, and notice it now points to the version 2 automatically. So the most essential documents, we try to keep them at your face. And naturally, the hyperlink, if I click it, it takes me directly to the major version 2, the updated documents, which has some updates here. So that's SOP handling. We also have a special document type called external procedure. That's something very simple indeed. So I'll go to my procedure work area, and the idea of an external procedure is a document that you have received from outside, like an EU legislation directly, any such paper. So I'll just go to a random folder. Here I have a PDF, and I'll just save it as an external procedure. Document type this is a guideline or policy. It concerns employee training, and basically, and off it goes, and you just release it with a PDF overlay. And now if we go and look at the process employee training, we look at the metadata of that process, we can see that there is now, it already points to its current procedure, which has the external document number 59. The difference is that there is no authoring. You just save and you release, and it shows up where it has to. So it's like an SOP without any authoring, if you will. Okay, that was the external procedure. Next down the line is the periodic review, which, I mean, it's a very common thing that people write fancy policies about how they review every 6 months, once a year, they check this and that, and no one ever remembers actually to do that. So let's go and look at our registries again. So we have the customer invoicing database with some documents. So I will set up a periodic review. The short name is, let's call it the annual check. Expected review task is check X, check Y, and I'll just create. And now we have ourselves a periodic task created, scheduled, which will activate on the 30th of July next summer, and it will go overdue exactly a year from now. So on 30th of July, it will assign itself to the responsible persons, and then it will go overdue 2 months later. Once this activates, if I modify just show you how this works, I'll change the date so that it actually will activate immediately. So these settings will actually make it jump to pending completion immediately. So now I have to specify some outcome summary. Yes, I did this. Looks good. I can, if we, for example, exchange some emails with an external supplier once we were checking something. So FDA, that's my favorite source of spam. I'll simply drag and drop them on top of this, the periodic review task, and now say I've completed, and I will provide my signature. And now one task is completed, and you notice, so this is the completed review task, and once it's completed, the system generates the next review task. It's already pending completion because I chose the ridiculous date settings that we check this system every day, which you probably wouldn't do in real life, but you get the idea. Deviations. So there are many kinds of like action buttons that you can record all kinds of issues. There are quite a few classes for them. So this is a full set of classes of all kinds of issues. We have audit finding, which you naturally associate with an audit. Customer related issue, which you associate with the customer. Data system breach, which you guessed it, associated with the data system. Other incident and risk. Short name, this went wrong. Severity major. You can already tie it to a current procedure that was being violated or not followed, and hence things like that's why shit hit the fan. And now we have this issue here, and again we can use either the task area buttons here, or I can right click and set a corrective action. So in order to correct this, we brew some coffee, make some strong coffee, and responsible person is me. And I'll just say assign all the corrective actions, in this case only one for completion. And when I go to my assignment list, there is a corrective action assigned to me, and in a similar fashion I would specify what I did. I could again attach any number of files and emails to this individual task and then claim I have completed that. If you have done audit COPPA things in the QMS, this looks very familiar. This is the same thing, we just renamed some objects. And now as I go back to the previous view and just refresh, we can see that now it's processed and closed. It will now automatically sit in this state for a year, and then it will reassign itself for the manager once again to check, like, was the corrective actions adequate? Is it so that the same issue hasn't happened again? And we are almost done. The last one is the auditing. So let's do the special type of audit, which is the DPIA. Initial data privacy review, and it starts today. And the auditor is again our GDPR manager, who I have logged in as. And now we have a DPIA ongoing. So again, I'll switch to a dedicated view designed for audit handling. Open audits. So here is our audit. Again, I could create an audit plan. We have a handy action button for that, but this would be basically repeating something you have already seen. Okay, let's instead move this into an audit state where it's ongoing. And now we can start either adding findings, we can record new risks, or add some more documents. And naturally, following the logic that should be already very familiar to you, I can simply drag and drop stuff here and classify them as audit attachments, and quite simple as that. It's very typical, for example, in audit management, that you exchange tons of emails before, during, and after an audit. So save the important ones here so you actually find them. Let's add a finding. this major problem, that is a major, again, you would associate with some metadata. You could associate it with an SOP. And now the handling of an audit findings is exactly identical to handling the non-conformance before. So again, I would set corrective action fix A. Okay, and we'll set another corrective action fix B. And again, I'll take all the responsibilities to myself. So now looking at the metadata card of the audit finding, we can see that there are two corrective actions shown here. So what I will do now for the audit is I'll say audit held. This will now push all the audit findings to the state where you have to manage all the findings and all the corrective actions. So if I now go to my assignment list, we have the fix A and fix B here as assignments for me. Messaging wise, it's crucial that you now make the customer understand the benefit of this, like instead of putting these in an Excel or communicating these via email. These are proper assignments that won't go away from the right person's to-do list until they eventually do something. So I'll complete this one. Oops, sorry, I have to actually, this is what I did. I'll provide my electronic signature and I'll deal with the other one. Again, I could drag and drop some files, emails, any evidence that I actually did also the fix B. Yes, done. So technically what I'm using here is the technology called Hierarchy Manager, which basically allows us to connect workflows together. So notice now that the single audit finding is now in a state CAPA's process closed because all the corrective actions, there were two, A and B, have been dealt with. But also since all the findings, there was exactly one, it means that it closes the entire audit. And because this is a DPIA, it assigns itself to the data protection officer who only can close this audit. And we have tried to make these assignment descriptions actually descriptive. We use GDPR wording throughout and so forth. So I'll close the audit. And in a few seconds time, you notice, so it's gone. This list only again shows ongoing stuff. But if we look at, for example, all audits by year, 2017, so here is the DPIA I just completed. You also notice that all the documents have changed their state to locked. So this is a fully closed package now. You can't add anything new. You can't revise documents. You can't modify anything. This is a fully locked down package. If necessary, the DPO can also reopen the audit, which will then revert all the documents to their previous state, so you can modify something. But as long as it's closed, all the content is locked. Okay. And the very last thing is simply handling requests. And this isn't very polished a process, but we want to provide something. So for example, if we look at, oops, sorry, I'm in the wrong view, requests, data system by type. So basically you would choose a data system and you would request access, and then to whom you request. If this is a brand new external person, you just add it from the plus button here. But let's assume that Janne Jarvenoja needs a full admin account because he just needs to create, and we have ourselves a new full admin account request, which awaits system owner's approval. So now it's assigned to, again, to me. Let's open this full screen view. As the person responsible for data system mFile CRM blah blah blah, or as DPO, please verify that this is a valid request. Let's move it over and we simply assign it for IT to execution, and now it's assigned to the IT admins group. And of course, we can't physically open or close access. We can only generate this request to some people who will then manually handle the request in whatever system there is. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to say that was the last use case, and we are only 2 minutes overdue.